Good morning, everyone. I'm Joshua Baum from Percepto. I lead our key accounts team, and I'm excited to be joined today by Iddo Salton, VP of Innovation at Delek US. Many of you in the room are involved in driving innovation within your organization. Whether you're leading a POC, managing an operational program, or as a subject matter expert. Drones, robots, sensors, AI, these technologies are changing how energy companies operate. When we talk about operating and adopting new technology, we see two main challenges. Getting the technology to work is the first hurdle, but providing long-term value day in, day out, that is the bigger obstacle to overcome. When we see a new technology released, we ask, can the technology be implemented into operational workflows? Can it really reduce teams' workload? And can it give managers better visibility to drive better decisions? That is what this session is about and what makes the Delek US evolution so important. Delek's story is about transforming site data into operational, actionable insights that enable operators to make better decisions and act better and safer every day. Across the energy industry, a lot of technologies could work as standalone solutions. A drone could fly, an AI model could generate alerts, a software platform could surface data, but these solutions maximize the value when they all come together in an operational ecosystem. And that is the end-to-end ecosystem that we have developed and built in Percepto over the years. To move this ecosystem from a POC phase to scaled operations, three things have to come together. One, a real business case. Two, a functional operating model. Three, technology that is built to reduce burden. For operators in downstream facilities, the stakes are critical. To effectively manage operations, three things are key. Visibility. Operators need visibility on what is happening on site. They need speed. How quickly can they operate and make a decision? And they need safety. How can teams deploy while minimizing risks? And that is where Delek's experience becomes especially important. Iddo, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Josh. Good morning, everyone. Very excited and honored to be here. My name is Iddo Salton. I'm leading innovation for Delek US for the last almost 6 years. A few words about for those of you who are not familiar with Delek. Delek is a midstream and downstream company. We are headquartered in Nashville area, Tennessee. We have 4 refineries as part of our downstream segment, 2 in Texas, 1 in Louisiana, 1 in Arkansas. We have a growing midstream segment with gas plants, water plants, pipeline, rail, tracking. So that's about Delek US. It means that we have few needs, different business units, different needs, different use cases. And as you will see, we're using the drones with one use case, but definitely we expanded it along the years. As Josh mentioned, the most important part in any technology, it's the need. It can be the best technology, but if there is no real need, no real use case, it's not going to be valuable. And for us, for Delek US, we started with the need, with the use cases. We defined what are the different needs for us. The second component is to make sure that it's part of a process. Again, if it's only a technology and there's a use case, but we are not embedding it into the process, it's not going to be sustainable. So for us, that was key for our success. And the third component is that people tend to think that it's only about the drone. But whatever we are getting from Percepto, it's not only about the drone, it's an entire turnkey project or capabilities. It starts with the software that helps us to define autonomous missions, to task the drone, the communication, of course, with the drone itself, how we do the computer vision in real time, and how we are handling the large amount of data. So that's in overall the turnkey capabilities that we're getting from Percepto, and we're using it, and that's what makes us successful.
Thanks, Iddo. Let's start with a business case. For Delek, the business case became very clear when visibility mattered most. There are scheduled inspections and routine monitoring rounds, which are definitely important. For refineries, the value becomes much bigger when teams need to understand site conditions quickly and safely. That is when remote visibility becomes part of how leadership in Delek makes decisions and responds to events. Across all of our customers, we identify two types of value. One is easy to quantify. It's based on direct costs and savings. You can measure reduced operational inspections, you can measure OpEx or improved efficiency. But some of the most important value is harder to quantify and put into a spreadsheet. How do you quantify better decision confidence? How do you measure solving an issue while it's small before it affects operations? How do you measure the value of decreasing risks to field teams or a faster response to emergency? Those are the areas where the business case became very clear for Delek, even when the value was not always captured by traditional ROI models.
What helped us to make it a sustainable technology and to make sure that it is a part of the process? First of all, we've been looking for technologies that will help us to move from more being responsive to more of being proactive, preventive, to identify issues while they are still small before they are becoming an issue. So that was our foundation. The second piece is that once we identify something and when we use the drones, we're seeing many things. Depends, of course, on the season, on the time of the day, on the area. Once we identify something, it is crucial for us to communicate it to the relevant people. I can tell you that there are some technologies can identify good stuff, but as long as that we are not communicating it to the SMEs, it only stays in the technology. For us, we're making sure that once we find something, we communicate it to the relevant SMEs, and eventually, we make sure that the relevant SMEs are making action. So something is happening. I can tell you that one of the ways that we measure our success is by how many working orders are issued thanks to the drone capability. Together with Percepto, we integrated Percepto to SAP, our ERP system. And once we identify something, automatically we're creating a notification. The SME can approve whether they would like to open a working order or not. So that's something for us. We call it closing the loop. We want to make sure that we identify something and we make the action. You can see here in the next slide a few use cases that we're using the drones. We have very good and different capabilities that we're getting from the drones. We have the infrared that help us to identify hot spots. We have the OGI, optical gas imaging, that helps us to identify gas leaks and hydrocarbons that are in an area that they are not supposed to be there. And we have also the RGB that helps us to identify visual things like security, like water buildups, things that the normal eye can see, but with the efficiency of the drone, it can help us to reduce the efforts that they are needed and to make it much faster and much more efficient. And as you will see later on, we are adding more and more use cases with time, and I will show you 2 additional use cases that we identified in the last 2 years. For us, the most important part is the safe and reliable operations. We are dealing in an area that we need to make sure that we're making the things as safe as possible. The visibility that we get from the drone, and we are able to share it all across the relevant stakeholders, is crucial. Once something happens, we want to make sure that we're able to communicate it to the relevant executives, to the relevant SMEs, to the relevant operators on the field. So that's something that for sure is very relevant for us. and the drone helps us a lot with supporting the safe and reliable operations. How we did that, and one of the things that I liked a lot in the previous presentation, it's all about the people. It's about the change management. Eventually, with all due respect to the technology, in order to make it successful and sustainable, the change management piece is crucial. So we created a very good collaboration from the innovation team, from the operations on the field, from our executive engagement, and that's something that helps us to take it further. We worked closely with the operators and the SMEs in order to identify these use cases. We invested a lot of time in workshop together with the support of Percepto, with our people on the field, identify the use cases, define the need, define how we can bring the value from the drone, and that's what helped us to take it further. Eventually, something that is very important as part of the change management piece, the site people, the SMEs, they own it. Once something is identified, they own it. We are supporting as innovation, they own it, and that's what makes it successful. We are not replacing whatever they are doing. The innovation team or the corporate team, they are not replacing whatever the site people are doing. What we work together with the site, and I'm talking as part of the corporate perspective, we collaborated to make sure that we are reducing the load from there. Many operators need to do inspections. The sites are obligated to do inspections on a frequent basis. With the drone, with the support of the corporate, we're able to reduce that load. We are not putting too much burden on their shoulders. We established an operating model that you will see. We call it the Cerebrum, our command center. We provide this inspection, the visual inspection, as a service. So the site, actually, they have the capabilities, they know how to fly the drones, they have the drones, but they prefer much more that we will provide it from the headquarters as a service to them. And I can tell you that today, out of the 100% of the missions that we are conducting, about 90–95% are conducted by our team in the headquarters, thanks to the BVLOS capability that we are able to fly from a remote, and that's something that we provide as a service. And guess what? Instead of fighting and arguing corporate versus site, there's huge collaboration, and the site asks more and more requirements and demands from the headquarters to fulfill. And that's what makes it a real success story. And as mentioned before, we're closing the loop. We're able together to make sure that once we identify something, and working order is issued, and we are improving the safe and reliable operations of our company. You see here the Cerebrum model. Cerebrum in Latin means the brain. This is our command center. We operate most of the flights from the Cerebrum. Of course, the different sites, they have the capability to fly also from the site itself. It's good, especially when emergency response is needed. But again, 90–95% of the flights today are conducting from this Cerebrum. We have a team of pilots that working from our headquarters in Nashville, supporting our refineries. In a few weeks, we're going to have 2 more systems in our gas plant in New Mexico. We work closely with Percepto, so that's something that also helps us, of course, to provide this kind of support, and we are providing this as a service to our site. They love it. They absolutely love it. We get great feedback from our operators team.
The drone program Delek has built organizationally became critical for their operations. At this scale, a turnkey solution is not a convenience. It is the operating model. Delek did not have to assemble the operating stack themselves. Percepto brought the end-to-end solution, including autonomy, hardware, software, analytics, services, regulatory enablement, support, and workflow integration required to make the program successful. Regulation is one of the places where POCs often slow down before they can scale. If every site needs a new approval path, every expansion becomes a separate project. Percepto removes that friction from day one with our nationwide FAA waiver. we have an in-house regulatory team that actively works with decision makers and agencies such as the FAA, EPA, and others. That allows customers like Delek to focus on the value instead of the red tape. Iddo, you want to share a little bit about this BVLOS video? Sure.
Yeah, that was the first BVLOS flight that we conducted from our headquarters. That was in our refinery in El Dorado, Arkansas. You see here the operators on the ground looking in iPads on the feed that we're providing from the drones. So for them, we try to mimic like an emergency response event where the drone collected and they shared the live footage with the operators. For us, that was the milestone that enabled us to move to this operating model that we're operating. And now, instead of now that the operators needs to fly the drones also by themselves, in addition to what they are doing on a daily basis, which anyway they are busy, now they're able to get the support from the corporate. And we were very happy and very proud to collaborate with Percepto and to be one of the first companies that conducted these BVLOS flights.
This is the full operational workflow and how it functions from data collection to actionable insights. The value comes when field data becomes operational intelligence, tied to the assets, connected to the workflow, and shared with the team that can act on it.
As I mentioned before, the visibility and the usage of the tools that we're getting from Percepto has been expanded. And as you will see here, I will show you two examples that we developed after the initial starting point with the drones that we're using today, the drone. We're expanding it to other teams, EHS team, a planning team, capital projects team. So more and more usage is being conducted, especially with the improvement with Gen AI capabilities, with computer vision, and I'll show you here two examples. The first example is the 3D model. It is saving a lot of time, reducing a lot of safety risks. Today, when we have a capital project that is planned in one of the sites, instead of all the teams, all the contractors, the constructors coming to the site, they can do things from remote, from their house, going over the 3D model, measure the dimensions that they need, identify whether a vehicle can go into that route or not. They can identify how many material is needed, and eventually this 3D model is saving us hundreds and thousands of hours during the year, and we're expanding it. We are updating this model every few months just to make sure that when there is new equipment or new setup to a specific site, we're able to use it in the right way. So that is one example. The second example, until now, without the drone, operators had to go on the field to write in a note in their notebook what are the rail order, what is the different numbers or the locations of each tracks. Now, using with the drone, using computer vision algorithms and using Gen AI, we established a process that saves a lot of time and reduces significantly the errors that operators can do while they are writing with the hand writing, and then put it in a computer, send it to the report, and you can see here the process. We capture the footage, we share it with the relevant stakeholders, and by the way, the stakeholders are from our commercial team. They didn't even think about it a year ago before we had this kind of capabilities. And now, using the drone, they are able to edit it in their computer without sending even one person that risks their life, because eventually you don't want to send operators if you can reduce or save this effort in a refinery. So that's a beautiful use case that we're also leveraging today. This became operational in the last few months for us in the company. A few things about the data. Together with Percepto, we integrated the data that comes from their system to our data hub. In Delek, we established as part of our data strategy, we built our own data hub. We are enabling reports on top of this data hub. And one of the things that we did with Percepto is integrated and allowed the data to flow from Percepto to our data hub. It enabled us to build dashboards to track the number of missions, number of findings, the assets, plan better autonomous missions, and to save a lot of working hours. So that's something that we built as part of our dashboard. Today, as part of our assets, we have 4 different sites in our 4 refineries. In the next few weeks, it's going to be the 5th site, our gas plant in New Mexico, that it's going to have additional 2 drones. Total, we have today 8 drones. We will have 10 in the next few weeks. And we are moving towards a model of 24/7 operations from our Cerebrum in Nashville. It means that every minute, every second that there is a need, we have a pilot that is prepared for that. We get the relevant support from Percepto if needed, and we work closely with the sites. And guess what? When we have this kind of capability, they are asking, the site and the demand is increasing. With the food comes the appetite. That's exactly the case here. More and more requests we are getting from the site, and I'm sure that we're going to have more and more use cases developed with the new capabilities, new technologies, and new ideas that we will have.
Thank you, Iddo, for sharing the Delek story.